Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thank you. Apologies. If you have joined, if you could put your microphones on mute for now, prevents a lot of background noise. Firstly, thank you so much for coming in early. There's already almost 250 people here, which is amazing, and we've still got 5 minutes to go. We've been running these webinars for a while, and this is the first time we sold out and had full capacity of 1,000 people well in advance of the session actually taking place. So it's absolutely fantastic that you've all volunteered your time and your energy to participate in this session. And it's a very exciting one as well. And I'm not surprised we have such a huge uptake given the subject matter and the amazing guest that is joining us today. So we'll be starting in about 4 minutes. So if you need to make any final adjustments, use the bathroom, grab a drink, stretch your legs, now's the time to do so before we start our journey on neuroscience. So 3 minutes to go. And just while we're waiting, if you could put into the chat where in the world that you're from. We usually get quite a global spread of people that attend our sessions. So just essentially put in the chat who you are and where you're from, just so we get a sense of how broad our reach is today, and also an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit. So Belfast, Philippines, Virginia, I think you're winning at the moment in terms of who's come from the furthest distance. Let's see if we've got anyone further than the Philippines. Just a reminder to put yourselves on mute when you arrive. Amazing. So we've got a few early starters. Welcome from Minnesota. Lots of people in Chester today, and a fair few from Belfast as well. So welcome from wherever you're from, near and far. Thank you so much for being here with us. Okay, can you all see the slides okay? Fantastic. Just a show of hands before we actually get started. How many of you have been to one of our webinars before? A few of you. Fantastic. How many of you here for the first time? Oh, amazing. A few first timers as well. Well, welcome. So this session is being recorded, and that is because a lot of people that enjoy these sessions aren't able to attend them live. So that recording will be circulated to you as well. So you can share that with colleagues, friends, once the session is finished. Just a reminder, if you are joining now, if you could keep yourselves on mute until you have something to share. that would be absolutely wonderful. If there is anything of a sensitive or personal nature that is shared, we will edit that out. But other than that, as I said, like the entirety of this session will be available after the session is complete. So how many of you have heard about the relationship between neuroscience and stress before? Okay, a couple of you. How many of you are interested in learning how neuroscience can help to build resilience? I'm hoping so, because that's what we're here for. And how many of you have never heard of neuroscience and aren't really that interested in becoming more resilient, and maybe were either volunteered for this session or have found yourself in the wrong webinar? Okay, that's good. You're in the right place in that case. As many of you will know, because it's highly likely you found us from our newsletter, we are the Stress Management Society. We're an international non-profit organization that has been around now for 21 years, since 2003. We came into existence essentially to help to create a happier, healthier, more resilient world. However, it feels like we're much further away from that goal today than ever before. Quite literally, sometimes feels like we're living in an episode of Black Mirror, where walking outside your front door seems to be more crazy and fantastic than anything you can find on Netflix. And as the world seems to become more demanding and more challenging, we need to be sure that we're able to upgrade our toolkit, our toolbox, to best equip us to navigate the ever increasing demands and challenges of modern life. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Neil Shah. I founded and set this organization up 21 years ago off the back of a first-hand experience. I had an experience which resulted in my mental health failing, having a breakdown, and at the depths of which getting to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore, and I took action against that. Thankfully, I failed, and it was through the recovery of that I realized that I'd like to do something to help other people. And I'm really grateful that for the last 21 years, the work that we've done has helped us to reach tens of millions of people around the world. And that's what today is about, is an opportunity to look at how do we upgrade our toolkit, our toolbox. And I'm really pleased to be joined by our lovely colleague Charlotte, that will be talking us through the main content of today's session. Charlotte, would you like to introduce yourself before we get into the ground rules?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Neil. I'm super excited to be here with almost 500 of you live. That's amazing. And I'm happy to share a bit about why I'm here. So the boring part first, in a nutshell, I spent years in the corporate world of consulting, experiencing stress, chronic pain, pre-burnout within myself, but also with loads of people around me. And I ended up with this persistent chronic neck pain that just wouldn't go away. And I also have a background in teaching hatha yoga and meditation for many years, which 100% saved me from sliding into a full burnout. But it couldn't solve my neck pain. And that's when I shifted to functional training and got into neuroscience. So I wanted to know what stress does to the body. I studied stress, I studied the nervous system, posture, fascia, and then slowly connected the dots. Also got rid of the neck pain, luckily, and mostly through working with increasing resilience to stress. And those different worlds shaped my philosophy that's reflected in the body mindset, where I help people to just reduce stress levels or chronic pain. And I'll share a flavor of that in a second. Yeah, so, and the more I learned about stress on the body, the more urgent it became to me to speak about it, because nobody really teaches us how the body works, other maybe in biology class in school. And I find it weird. We understand so many things, right? We understand space, we understand tech, but we don't really understand how our body operates. So yeah, super excited that so many of you are interested in that as well. That's what we'll dive into today. Yeah, and if you couldn't already guess from my accent, I'm German. I live in Portugal since 1 year. That's where I'm calling in from, close to Lisbon. And yeah, ready to dive in a second.
Thank you, Charlotte. We're also joined by my colleague Abby, who is our co-pilot today. Abby, give us a wave.
Hiya.
So Abby's here to support the session. If there are any links that come up on the screen, she'll paste them into the chat. If there are any things that you share in the chat function, she'll bring that into the discussion for us. And if there's anything that you need in the way of help or support, just put into the chat and Abby will be more than happy to help. So for those of you who've attended our sessions before, it is a workshop. We want as close as possible for us to have an experience as if we were actually in a conference room together where we can have two-way dialogue. The content has been created so that you can participate, you can share your thoughts. So get involved, put your thoughts into the chat. If you'd like to share something on the microphone, put your hand up so we can come to you and you can ask your questions and share your perspectives. There's going to be lots of opportunities for you to get involved. We do want to hear from you. And, if there's at any point things don't make sense, you need clarification, you want us to slow down, just please reach out so we can ensure that you get as much value from this session as possible. Also, again, for those that have attended before, you know that we will always establish some ground rules so we have a safe container to have a conversation about things that are not easy or comfortable for many of us to open up about, particularly around our mental and emotional well-being. So firstly, I'm going to encourage you to be present. A lot of people turn up for these kind of sessions thinking you can kind of watch in the background whilst you're working on that report or dealing with, that email. For you to get full value from today's discussion, I'm going to ask you to approach this as an exercise in mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Being present in the moment with no judgment. And it's really hard to do that in modern life. It's one of the things that Charlotte will be covering later. Many of us feel totally overwhelmed because of the amount of things that are flying at us in any given moment. I saw something recently that I think something like 60% plus of people, when they're watching TV, are also looking at a minimum one, if not two other screens. So you're kind of watching TV, scrolling through Instagram, you've got some, Facebook on in the background. And we struggle to be present to even a simple act of watching television, let alone being present with the people in our lives. Went to a restaurant recently with my partner, and I remember sitting at a table, and the table next to us, there was a family of four, two children under the age of 5, and the mother and the father, and all four of them were looking at a screen whilst enjoying a meal out. And it's like, what has happened to the world? So part of the gift you can give yourself is to be fully present. So where you can limit other distractions, we've only got a short amount of time. So if you can fully commit your time to this session, you'll get a lot more out of it. Participate, do your 50%. What you put in will determine what you take out. Be open, honest, and respectful, particularly if people share things or things that are discussed that you don't agree with or you don't align with. That's okay. We're entitled to different opinions and perspectives, and this is a safe space to discuss, debate, and have discourse around that. Have an open mind to new ways, new approaches, different approaches to being able to build your resilience. And if anything is mentioned in this space that could impact your safety or the safety of others, that's something that obviously we will need to discuss more, and where necessary, take action to safeguard individuals, particularly if there is any concerns about your well-being. We do ask that anything that is shared and discussed in this space stays confidential, other than obviously if anything comes up that poses a safeguarding risk, or if it's anything that myself or Charlotte share, and Abby. You have our full permission to share the ideas that we're discussing here with anyone that's willing to listen. And if you are making statements, start with owning those statements. So rather than what someone else has done or what's happening external to yourself, how has that made you feel? So I am going to hand over to Charlotte, and she's going to be taking us through the key content that we'll be covering today. But as I said, as we're going through this, if there are things that you'd like to ask or discuss, feel free to get involved. And yeah, Charlotte, over to you.
Cool, thanks. All right. So my goal for the next hour is to convince you of the following statements. We have 5 of them. The first one is easy. It's everyone, I guess, will agree with me. Stress is unavoidable. Chronic stress is bad, and it's sometimes even our blind spot. The second one is maybe a bit more abstract, but chronic stress changes the structure of your brain. The third one, like with muscles, you can train your brain back in shape. So in chronic stress, we usually default to emergency mode, right? If we're stressed out all the time, we change the hardware, but we can change that back. So we default to calm, how it should be. And it's a bit like going to the gym, basically. And then the fourth one, to revert the brain back into shape, we're going to work with the body mainly today, not with the mindset. And lastly, tools need repetition. So it's like going to the gym. Going once just won't give you that six pack, unfortunately. So we want to have a consistency here. And I'll give you a flavor of the tools in the second part of today. So you can start practicing. Cool. And yeah, I think we're all ready to jump in, right? And to see if that makes sense. That's the question. All right, cool.
So, Charlotte, just before we dive into that, I think I'd just like to ask a question and also get everybody's thoughts and opinions on this as well. When we hear the term mental health, what typically comes to mind? So I'd love for you guys to share in the chat. When you hear the term mental health, what typically comes to mind? What kind of things do you think about? Okay, so Emma's saying sort of negative emotions. Okay, I'm seeing like depression, anxiety, etc. Yeah. What about if you hear the term physical health? What comes to mind? Anyone got any thoughts? It's interesting that when you hear the term physical health, for a lot of people, things like eating well, exercise, being strong, being healthy, sleeping well, fitness. Now, yeah, for those of you who've attended our sessions before, you'll know that we do often talk about this, that if this is the health coin...
Got your eyeglasses?
Oops, sorry about that. So just a reminder to keep yourselves on mute unless you're sharing something. If this is the health disc and one side is mental health and the other side is physical health, why is it that when we talk about mental health, it's viewed in the negative, but you flip it over to the physical and we tend to have more positive associations with it? But more importantly, to the points Charlotte's raising, it's the same coin. It's just different sides of it. If you affect one side of the coin, it's inevitably going to affect the other, which is why I find it really strange that people do kind of fitness activities for their bodies without understanding the impact of the brain, but also actually, particularly for some of the sporting events like triathlons that I've prepared for, actually preparing my mind was as important as preparing my body. So Charlotte, that is a really good place for, I think, for us to start. And I'd love your opinions, something to put into the chat as to why the mental health is the poor relation. And yeah, back to you, Charlotte. Oh,
So,
actually, before
sorry,
we do that,
Neil?
Yes, go for it.
Can I just say, I don't know if I'm the only one, but my chat's not working.
Abby, is the chat working?
Same for me actually as well. I can't
Same
type
for
in
me.
And the
Yeah,
same, it seems to
same.
have been blocking it.
It may well be because we've hit capacity, we've broken the system. Abby, if you could have a look at that. Just before you do that, I know that you have put something wonderful together as a gift for everyone. Do you want to talk about that before we hand back to Charlotte, which was your purple paper? A purple paper is our version of a white paper because we're a little bit more fun than a white paper, which tend to be boring. So we write purple papers, and Abby wrote a purple paper. Do you want to talk about that, Abby?
Yeah, sure. So I basically summarized all of the main things that are going to be coming up in this session. So I've tried to simplify everything so it's nice and easy to follow, and put all the main diagrams. So I'll put the link in the chat, and I'll also just check to see why some people can't access the chat as well, and I'll get back to you on that.
Thanks, Abby. Back to you, Charlotte.
Cool. All right. So yeah, great metaphor before. So before we can really understand neuroscience, we want to understand this high level of stress on the body, and basically this body-mind relation, which the chronic stress loop can explain quite nicely. So basically what happens if we experience a stressful thought, our body is going to tense up, and you might notice it or you might not, but that's going to signal to the nervous system that there is some sort of danger going on, and that's going to signal to the mind and then we will have just more stressful thoughts as a result. And we have an example here, just on the next click. So basically, if we pick up our phone just because we see the notification popping up in bright red and we got a deadline that was moved to end of day, we might do this, right? So we might be like with big eyes, shoulders are up a bit. And if we don't fully relax our body afterwards, that's how over time we get caught in this stress loop. So our body is then acting as if we're in survival mode constantly, a bit like being stuck in the hamster wheel. And it's kind of close also to overwhelm, Neil, what you spoke about last month in your session. But let's look at the body and let's understand why this being stuck in this loop is a problem for the body. Should we just open up, maybe put a word in the chat box what you think on that?
Absolutely.
Why would that be?
And it might be actually nice to hear from one or two of you if you've got something to share on this. Why is it that when you're feeling overwhelmed, you can't stop? You just continue on the hamster wheel rather than taking a moment just to remove yourself, go for a walk, stop, breathe, relax. Why is it that when we're overwhelmed, we just tend to keep going? And actually, I find that that's where we're more likely to pick up the phone and doom scroll through Instagram or actually do more rather than actually just stop and take a moment. So has anyone got anything they'd like to share? It would be lovely to get one or two of you onto mic before we move on. I can see some hands up. Alan, you've got your hands up. Kirsty, go for it. Kirsty Butcher.
Yeah, I think it's the worry sometimes that doing nothing is kind of worse than doing something. Certainly, and it's kind of what happens when you're not there, particularly if you're like a single point of failure, or you feel like a single point of failure. I mean, I've recently had that situation where I've had to take time off, but I didn't feel like I could take time off at the right time. I had to wait for a new starter to come on board and induct them first, and that didn't particularly help me. But yeah, it's knowing that, not being able to work out, knowing what the right thing is, but actually being able to put that into practice is sometimes really difficult in real life situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
We'll take one more. Mark, I saw your hand up as well. Mark Sadler, would you like to share? And we'll take the other hands that are up. We'll take your shares for the next point. Go for it, Mark.
Yes, certainly. Last year I went through a very bad time. Based on the thing, I was on my own. I had nobody to continue my work should I be away. The first time in my life I went to the doctor. He asked me how much time I wanted off. I had no idea. I took a week because that's all I felt I could actually take from work. And I certainly needed more. It affected me for a long time after, but it was the pressure of work that stopped me actually taking more time, and it was difficult.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable. So Charlotte, why can't we stop? Why do we get ourselves in this cycle where the busier and more under pressure and more overwhelmed we are, we just keep doing more rather than actually taking the time to find a better way?
Yeah, good question, and thanks everyone for sharing. And usually it's our mind, right, telling us, okay, we need to do more, otherwise things fall apart. But if we look a little bit level deeper, we can understand that we train our body to be stressed out all the time. And that's why we can't easily just stop and now relax and read a book. So our body gets used to being stressed out, and we are in this loop, and then it's harder to stop. And why that is exactly, we'll look into in a second. It will be our first neuroscientific deep dive. And just one thing I want to add here to that, because I feel it's important. I think many of you know this, but chronic stress is often the underlying cause of physical and mental health issues, but we might not notice it until we face symptoms, until we are anxious, we panic, we have physical pain, etc. So it's good to be aware of that. That's often the underlying cause. And this constant emergency mode on the body is going to wear down the body. So we age faster in chronic stress. Our biological clock gets accelerated. So that's why basically first statement, chronic stress is bad. And let's look at the brain and understand what happens there that makes our body not being able to stop. Perfect. Okay, cool. So our brain is constantly scanning for dangers, right? So if you hear something that indicates there's a threat across the street at night, the fear center will take over. We'll get some dopamine, adrenaline, our heartbeat rises, and we're ready to run. We're in acute stress, right? And in chronic stress, we have too much cortisol in our system. Cortisol is our stress hormone. And it's not only bad, but in chronic stress, we have too much of it, and then it is bad. And that makes that our fear center will grow in size. So it actually grows, this area of the brain, our amygdala will grow in size. And what cortisol also does, it's going to shrink our control center. And this is the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus. So this is where we really lose area in the brain. So it's going to shrink the control center. And that means that you end up in a situation where the alarm center constantly going to overrule our control center. So then even the smallest things will cause immediately for the fear center to be in charge and escalate into this fight, flight, emergency mode. And that's when our brain gets out of shape. So we struggle to lift that weight, as you can see on the small symbol on the left bottom. So that's basically what happens in our brain. So over time, cortisol changes the brain in structure and function. Does that make sense for everyone so far?
Yeah.
Good.
So,
okay, good.
Charlotte, that obviously is quite concerning. I've never considered it in this way until we started speaking. So what do we need to do to get the brain back into shape? I know how to get my muscles back into shape, and how to target certain muscles if I need to work on my glutes or my delts. I don't quite know how to get my brain back into shape, because I'm pretty sure there aren't weights that I can insert into my ears to start doing some weight training on my brain, unless you're going to tell me otherwise.
I'd love that. I'm not aware that exists. Cool. Yeah, that's a really good question. That's what we want to address today. And if we look at research, we know that there's specific tools working with the body that helps to reduce cortisol. So when we reduce cortisol on the body, we help the control center to grow in size again, and we help to activate our rest and digest state of the nervous system. That's thanks to neuroplasticity. Can't go into more depth here, but basically that's what happens. And there are many different tools. I'll speak about that more, but like meditation, breathing, movement, posture are some of them. All right. And before we go into the tools in more depth, let's look at the nervous system here for a second. And I'm sure not everyone is familiar what it is. So we will just speak about the autonomic nervous system today, which is in charge of involuntary functions like heart rate, blood pressure, etc. And before we dive in, let's play with this metaphor for a second. And I'm curious, how do we look at life through those different lenses? So if we're going on the highway, usually we're there because we need to get somewhere fast, right? There's so much to do that we just need to take the highway, we need to be fast. The scenic route in the middle is slower, but the views definitely make up for it. And then on the right side, we could do a picnic, we could, recharge, relax, take a break. And I'm curious to know, Neil, what do you think? Which route would you pick?
If I had to choose, I would like to spend my life picnicking. If I consider with all the things that I'm working on and the things that we're involved with at the moment, it feels like I'm always on the highway. What about for everyone else? Are you on the highway? Are you taking the scenic route? Or are you able to have regular time for picnics? What is your life like at the moment? And what do you feel is happening in the world around us? Are we being forced onto the highway or are we encouraged to take the scenic route? So again, it'd be nice to hear from a couple of you. Emma, you had your hand up from last time. I don't know if you've got any thoughts to share around this. And if anyone else has got any thoughts, please feel free to put your hand up. Go for it, Jade. Jade Pugh. Steph, you've got your hand up as well. Steph, Eureka Yoga.
Oh, sorry.
Hiya.
Yeah.
Oh, someone else came in. Yeah.
All right, we'll come back to you, Steph. Whoever said hiya, feel free to go ahead.
That was me, sorry. Yeah, normally I would take the fastest route. However, through anxiety, I can't anymore. So I have to take the scenic route, which is quite nice. But I would like to be able to choose to take the fast route some days. But my anxiety is preventing me from doing that now.
Jane, and that's an interesting and important point. There are times where you need to be on the highway, right? Because you just need to get somewhere fast.
Yeah.
But if you spend your whole time on the highway, yeah, that might create some challenges. So yeah, thank you, Jade, and I do agree with that. Steph.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so for me, I am prone to take highways quite a lot. But what I found is like planning my days, but also planning my lives a bit further apart helps me to kind of ease off the urgency. So I'm a bit more at the scenic route and now learning also to just chill out and take a picnic without thinking of anything and be in the moment. But that takes time. But for me, I found that kind of the anxiety came from not knowing and wanting to catch up and be in a, like somewhere and kind of see the goal rather than the way. And having a plan, I know where I'm gonna be, and I can like ease off the pressure a bit. So that helps for me personally quite a lot.
Fantastic, thank
That's
you for
amazing.
sharing.
Yeah,
Charlotte,
thanks for sharing.
Just kind of, want to bring this back to you for a moment because, I've been doing a lot of research recently around the blue zones and, how people in certain parts of the world are able to live not just much longer, on average 100 years of age, but the quality of their life and their happiness level seems to be significantly higher. I remember seeing a video interview of someone that was 103 riding around on a horse looking like he was 70 years of age. I was like, how is this
that
possible?
as well. I saw that.
It was so impressive.
Yeah.
And I think the thing I took away from that is that they do take the scenic route and they have time for picnics. However, in Western society, I feel more and more of us are being forced onto and compelled to stay on the highway. Why is that? And what is the consequences? What's the price we pay for that?
Yeah, fair question. So what's important to note here, and you said that earlier, we need all three of those roads, and we kind of switch lanes. We go from the highway to the scenic to picnic back to scenic. But our lifestyles are a bit more designed to keep us going on the highway. We should consume more. We should be always on. High screen time is so much linked to chronic stress and burnout and mental health issues. We know all those things, but still, our lifestyle is designed to make us go on the highway for sure. And if we go to the next slide, we see kind of the same idea, and that's showing our nervous system states if we're chronically stressed. So in red, you see this is our fight-flight state. In green, this is basically the scenic route. We are in balance. And then on the right, in yellow, this is our rest and digest state. And I mentioned we need all three states, but in chronic stress, what happens? One last thing, the blue line basically is mapping our day, our activities. So we wake up and we quickly, in chronic stress, find ourselves already over breakfast, being stressed out. Our first meeting pushed us even further to the left lane on the highway. And then at night, we just quickly move from the stress to just maybe Netflixing with food on the couch, and we disconnect and fall asleep. So that's basically in fight flight. That's where we have symptoms like anxiety and panic. And on the right side, in faint or freeze, in rest digest, we have symptoms like depression if we can't get up. So those two, if we are not balanced, dysregulated, that's what happens. Now, what we can see on the right side, if we click one further here, is how our nervous system should be defaulting to. So we should have a very wide scenic route that allows our body and us to just cruise throughout the day, and stuff like meetings, work, being stuck in traffic's not going to push us over to the highway, but going to make our body just remain calm. Our system is in balance. And we want to widen this we call it window of tolerance, and we want to widen and stretch that scenic route so that mostly we can be there, and we will still be stressed out, and we sometimes need to be fast, so that's fine, normal, but our set point should be scenic route. And
So,
I have a
Charlotte,
question as well. Yeah,
go for it. No,
go
no,
first.
we hear your question. I've got something I wanted to ask as well.
Okay. I'm curious. Do you notice when you're shifting lanes, or what do you notice? I'm really curious about that, because that's when we can interfere. So I'm curious, maybe someone has a comment, or just in the chat box, what do you notice when you're shifting lanes, let's say from the scenic to the highway? Maybe you would start holding your breath. Maybe you start multitasking. Okay, higher heart rate. Okay, yeah, breathing changes. That's a very, very good indicator usually. Irritated, tearful, sweating, clenching jaw. Okay, perfect. That means that everyone is kind of really aware, which is amazing, because that's exactly what this is about. We want to be aware of it so that we can actively work with the body to just reduce and come back to calm, to balance. Okay, tight chest, concentration lacking, anxiety, overwhelm. Okay, cool. Wow, thanks. That's really good. So if we are more aware, we can deepen this body-mind connection. That means we cultivate a higher sensitivity to recognize these sensations. And that's the first step. So we need to recognize it. And it looks like everyone here is already really good at that. And over time, we increase this. It's on a spectrum. Over time, we get better. We notice more subtle movement sensations. So for instance, we can practice this also with small things. If we pick up our phone, or you want to pick up our phone because it's already a habit, take a deep breath instead and just observe. And doing that, you train your system to tune in. Cool. Okay. So basically, if we go to the next slide, this is just a short recap.
And just before we do that, Charlotte, I just wanted to discuss something with you, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
I did my first race back. I've been competing in triathlons for a few years now, about 10 years. But I had a gap of a few years, and this year was my first race back. I did it in Cardiff on the 30th of June, and I know how important it is to pace yourself. What you don't want to do is blow your race up in the first 10 minutes. But when you get in the water and you've got people swimming over each other and everyone's excited and the adrenaline kicks in, I did what I know I'm not supposed to do. And I went way too fast in the first, 1,000 meters of the swim. And I found that actually I was struggling. I couldn't catch my breath. And actually the whole of the rest of the race was compromised. And I was so far off my personal best because I had got onto the highway and put the pedal to the metal and gone as fast as I can. In a way, it's kind of like asking Usain Bolt to run a marathon at his 400-meter sprint pace. You burn yourself out. But I'm finding more and more people are approaching life in that way. that they are literally going as fast as they can. I think the phrase is hell for leather, and you get yourself exhausted and wiped out, which is why we're seeing more and more people burning out. And actually, it's the classic, the fable of the hare and the tortoise. The hare might rush off into the distance, but actually that sustainable long-term pace is where we were able to healthily, comfortably, and successfully complete the race of life. And I think that's my interpretation of your model. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good example, and I think usually we try to do more, and that will increase cortisol, right? So if we want to do something for ourselves, but we decide to go for a high intensity class at the gym, that's good in a way, but in another way, that's also gonna increase cortisol. And then if we're doing on top of it a lot of other activities, that's just gonna stack up. So then our cortisol level is really high, and it's gonna be so hard to just sit down and relax and read a book for a second. So definitely our lifestyles push us into that direction. But the good thing with the brain and with neuroplasticity is that small things will make a change and a difference over time. So it's very in the moment, and very small things that we choose to go a different path. We choose to take a deep breath in this moment, and that's already good. That's already doing something. We notice it only with consistency and over time, but that's the good thing about the brain and neuroplasticity, that those small things will stack up as well, will compound, and will help our system to calm down.
So Charlotte, how do we, in your words, widen our window of tolerance, or in my world, find that long-term sustainable race pace where you can run the marathon or do the triathlon and not burn yourself out in the first 10 minutes of the race?
Yeah. That's the question. How can we widen this window of tolerance? And it's very individual for people. It's very different. But for me personally, what is crucial is to have a very strong, consistent morning practice every day to kind of get my nervous system, start with a very calm nervous system, basically. So I meditate for half an hour to an hour, do breathing exercises and some yoga or functional training, and that's gonna help to just set the nervous system and to be prepared for the day. And then also all these other like mindfulness practices and tools will do the same thing. But what happens if you're more balanced and if you're calm, you will make better choices, right? So you will put the right boundaries in place, and you will make sure to protect your time as much as you can. Whether when we're already stressed out, we make worse choices, and then it gets harder. So really the goal is to work with the body, to get the body in balance, and go from there. Does that answer the question?
I think so. Dominic's put an interesting comment in the chat. Why are we racing at all? But yeah, in life we do need fewer races, and I think that's an interesting point. The rather than those high intensity workout sessions in the gym, more time out in nature, walking the dog and being present. I actually agree with that. That we've got used to just being at this intense, frantic pace of racing, and maybe those gentle strolls are what's called for. So how do we do this? Are you able to share some ideas or examples of how we can widen our window of tolerance?
Yeah, let's look at the next slide real quick and see why we can work with the body, what I already said, to calm down the system. Why does that work well? So basically, we know that 80% of all our fibers in the body that are related to the nervous system and the vagus nerve, they run bottom up. So they run from bottom to the top and report to the brain. And only 20% run from the brain down. So that means if we relax those fibers, those nerves throughout the body, 80%, we get 80% calm and peace signals up to our brain. And that's when the nervous system gonna realize, oh, okay, actually there's no danger around, I can calm down. and then the mind's going to be at ease as well. So that's if you click one more time, Abby, please, and then we can see that. And that helps. That's the same thing with breathing, with meditation, with mindfulness practices and posture. And the latter we will try in a minute. And there's just one more slide before we actually get practical. Exactly. So I call them the resilience boosters. And there's a lot to speak about that. There's a ton of research out there. And I'll just mention one thing about meditation and then we'll dive in. So basically, research found that daily meditation of 15 minutes for 2 months will already change the brain. So it will help decrease the fear center. And the research can show that with brain scans, super fascinating. And breathing will help to activate the rest and digest state if we know how to do it. So those tools are super powerful. And the more we know about them, the more likely we are to use them. And that's why I want to explain a bit. And basically, they can help us in the moment of stress, right? To breathe deep, for instance, and they will help, what I said earlier, to prep the system for the day or in the end of the day, which I highly recommend. Okay, cool. That was, I think, enough theory. So we will dive in, and I have a short practice here that we can do together. Is everyone ready for that? Okay. Cool. So this tool is called mapping. And what we will do, it's very simple. You can do it seated on your desk, wherever you are. We will look at our posture in the fight-flight state. So we are able, our goal is, if we do that more consistently, to cultivate higher body awareness. So we notice those bodily signals and then can interfere and try to calm down. All right. And just note here that it's very different from person to person. And in order to do this exercise, we can just click one more slide forward, Abby.
And also, I'm going to encourage before we get started in the exercise, just check in with yourself. Do a bit of a base level reading. Let's do this as a scientific experiment. Let's see what happens. So just tune in. How do you feel in your body? What are your energy levels like? Look around the room, colors, contours, shapes, sounds that you hear. Look around at the people you see on the screen, their postures, kind of their body posture and facial expressions, and how that might change just as we do these simple exercises with Charlotte, so we can get a sense of what benefit or changes we've experienced.
Perfect way to start, Neil. All right. So just pick a comfortable seated position wherever you are. And I'll invite you in a second to bring to mind a recent happening that brought some level of activation. Don't choose anything overwhelming, just some moderate kind of activation. You felt a bit angry about an email or something small like that. And I'll give a few examples, and then you'll have a bit of time afterwards to take a few notes if you feel like it. So you might want to close your eyes or just soften your gaze and look down. And try to think of a scene like that brought a bit of stress. Maybe it was an anger moment at work or a stressful moment at home, and then picture where you were. Who were you with? And then just pause where it got challenging. And for some people, this is easier. For some people, it's harder. So if it's harder for you, you can also just grab your phone and observe what happens there. But if you have a situation and a picture, let your attention go to the sensations and emotions you remember. Did you feel your heartbeat? Maybe there was some tension, some tightness. Maybe you felt irritated or nervous, a bit restless. There's this resistance to things that do not go in line with your plan. And then let's observe the breath. Did you hold your breath, or did you breathe really shallow just up here? And a lot of people have that, so that's why I mention it. Maybe you feel tight neck and shoulders. Maybe you're clenching your jaw. Maybe your eyes are big. Maybe you have a, just very shallow, thin breath. And then the mind's going to say, I'm running behind. I'm supposed to do something else already. This should go faster. And often you're judging either yourself or others. Let's just wait a few more seconds here. Take some notes if you notice some things. Or just observe. Okay, and we'll just flow into the next tool, which is related. So you can just stay where you are, keep your eyes closed if you like. And we'll pendulate a bit with the posture here. So what would it feel like if you come out of this fight-flight response with your shoulders maybe a bit up there, just a little bit? So you try to release your shoulders a bit down, and maybe you exhale a bit, and maybe your face softens a little bit. And then you come back and your shoulders go up again. So you come back into this stress activation. And then just play with that. And you slowly come back out again, breathe a bit deeper. Release your shoulders a bit more and soften your face. And focus on what happens while you shift out of that state, while you release your shoulders a bit, soften, sense the breath. And it's really micro movements often. Right. So you come one more time back in, shoulders go up maybe. And then out. Just release your shoulders all the way. You can open your eyes if your eyes are still closed. What we do with pendulation is that we widen our sensory repertoire in a way. So we can sense more physically without the reaction of the mind and our system stressing. So we are building emotional resilience. And you can do this in everyday life with small things like picking up the phone, notice your shoulders tighten a bit. The more you pay attention, the better you will get at noticing it. That's the amazing part. Okay, cool. So this is the last tool we'll do, and it kind of just is a nice addition to the practice, to the mapping and the pendulation. And this is really simple and also the most fun. So if you're in the office somewhere, you can just do it seated, and you can just start by shaking out your hands. Do one by one or both at the same time. And then you can start shaking your arm and shake your shoulders a bit. If you're seated in the office, this still looks kind of normal, probably. You can shake both of your arms now. Just try. There's no right or wrong. Just shake. Your body knows what to do. Shake your shoulders. And if you like, and if you don't care in the office or you're somewhere home, you can stand up and you can shake your feet as well. You can dance around a bit like Neil. You can shake your shoulders out. That's where we hold so much tension, and just full body. Nice. Okay. Cool. So yeah, I hope everyone feels released. And I invite you just to take one last deep breath here all together with me. And just inhale all the way through your nose up. Hold up there, hold, fill up, and then exhale through your mouth all the way out. Might feel a bit out of breath now if you did it properly. All right, cool. Okay.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Welcome
that
back.
was amazing. And
Nice.
it's interesting because, you know, most animals have a shake reflex. My dog, when he was stressed, that's the first thing you do when the stress response is over. You shake it out. Ducks do it. You may have seen like ducks or birds do it. So I think in the animal kingdom, it's quite a normal, natural thing. When an animal has experienced stress, they shake it out. But it's interesting that because of our you know, because of our self-consciousness, we're denying ourselves of a very natural response. That actual shaking is nature's way of literally shaking off the stress. So in our you know, in our supreme intelligence as human beings, we've talked ourselves out of a very natural and simple way of literally taking ourselves out of stress. So rather than us telling you, what do you feel? It'd be good to hear from one or two of you as we start to bring our session to a close. What changes, what benefit, what have you noticed just from doing those three simple things? You know, very simple exercises, but I feel different. It was fun. You know, dancing around kind of whilst I was shaking was actually a lot of fun. What did you notice? What did you experience? Some of you saying sort of, oh, it's going too fast for me to keep up. Abby, you're much better with this kind of stuff. What are people's kind of thoughts in terms of what they feel? Oh, we can't hear you, Abby.
No, my mute button's broken.
Oh. Yeah, we got you.
Sorry about that. A lot of people are saying they feel energized, more relaxed, looser, lighter, calm, happier. Someone said it made them yawn.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's most of it.
So, guys, you did that yourself. No pills, no potions, no special equipment. Didn't cost you anything. You can do it anywhere, anytime, any place. I appreciate you might need to get over the fact that you might feel a bit self-conscious doing it. But here's the thing. You were born with the tools on board to take yourself out from stress. You don't need to sign up for, you know, any long-term subscriptions or to be concerned about the side effects of these activities, because you are literally just using your body in a more natural way. And if you found that this session was interesting, valuable, beneficial, there's an opportunity for you to be able to take that further, because one of the challenges we had is Charlotte has such a huge wealth of knowledge, and we've literally got about 40 minutes to squeeze it in, and we just literally did not have the time and capacity to do that. So she's actually running a much more in-depth masterclass with us on September the 18th, 5 to 6:30. It's an hour and a half long. If you would like to sign up for that, if you scan the QR code that's on the screen, and the lovely Abby will put the link into where you can sign up in the chat as well. Essentially, it's the full toolkit. She's only demonstrated a couple of very simple tools here today. The longer masterclass is, she normally charges £247 for it, but there is a discount, a significant discount. I think it's £77 if you'd want to sign up for that. And right now, all you need to do is register your interest, and we'll send you further information. But that means that we'll have a lot longer to go through some of these tools in much more detail. And obviously, there'll be a smaller group there as well, so you'll have more time to interact. If you've enjoyed this session, we do this for free. We do this as a public service venture. Your feedback, your reviews really help, because we want more people to be able to turn up for these kind of sessions. And we hit 1,000 this month. Obviously, 1,000 didn't show up live, but that means that we can invest in tools to get a bigger platform if we're getting the positive traction and more people signing up. So, you know, 2 minutes of your time to leave us a review really helps. And Charlotte will, sorry, Abby even will put the link into the Google review in the chat as well. We've got tons of free resources on our website, stress.org.uk. Again, that link will be put into the chat, so feel free to go to our website. You can download there's a free journal. There's some additional resources, a 30-day calendar, which is also available for you. We've also launched our brand new learning platform, which has got all of our best products and services on there. It's kind of a self-learning tool. There's an early sign-up fee. It's normally £15, but at the moment it's £9.97. So if you'd like more information on that, you can check it out at wellbeingprotect.com. And again, that link amongst the others will be put into the chat in a moment. We've got a weekly newsletter, which you'll find on our website, which is where you'll find out about upcoming sessions and all kind of the latest news and information that we share, as well as practical wellbeing tips. Most of you probably found us through the newsletter, but if not, sign up for it, because that comes out once a week and you'll be the first to know. And also you can be sure you can sign up for things before they get fully booked as well. If you do need help or support immediately, obviously feel free to stay on. We're more than happy to have a chat with you. But if you're really struggling, you can contact the Samaritans. There's Silverline for people that are slightly older in the UK. There's Mine. There's a campaign against living miserably. And also, if you are struggling and need help, support, or advice, feel free to reach out to us as well. We can only continue doing these kind of things through the support and the generous donations we get from people that attend. So even if you're able to donate a few pounds, euros, dollars to allow us to continue doing this work, all you need to do is click on the link in, the QR code or the link that will be put into the chat momentarily, because every little bit helps. So what would you like to discuss, share, or ask before we finish today's session? I can see there's already a few hands up. We will hang out for a few minutes as well if anyone has got anything to share. Holly Cassidy, I can see your hand is up. And we've also got Virginia from the Philippines. If you've got a question or something you'd like to share, now's your chance. I've got Ruth as well, Mary, and Kevin. You've got your hands up. And if anyone else has got anything you'd like to ask or share, now's your chance. So this would be a great opportunity to come onto the microphone if you do have a point. As I said, the hands I can see up are Holly Cassidy, Mary Hudson, and Ruth Ruck. Okay. Anyone else got any final questions, comments, shares? What are you taking away from this session? What is it that you have found valuable or useful about it? And yeah, I think Abby's going to put.
I think Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I didn't realise I still had my hand up. I'd actually wanted to ask a question at the beginning when you talked about moving your body, but I can see what you mean now because of physical disability as well. I wanted to know whether this was suitable, but I'm kind of on the highway, can't seem to get off the highway. Been on the highway for a very long time. It's not very good because I was involved in a car crash and nearly lost my life. So being on the highway is a very frightening place. But things like mindfulness, I have sort of chronic severe complex post-traumatic stress disorder which I've had for well over 40 years. It was only diagnosed a few years ago. But things like mindfulness and meditation, I don't find at all helpful. Are there any other suggestions for other things that I could perhaps do? I did find the shaking helpful. I couldn't do much because of like physical disability, because I can't walk very far and stand for very long and things like that. But just wondered if there's any other options than mindfulness.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Thanks for sharing. So I would say the best tool for me personally, I think, is breathing. And they're very simple, nice breathing exercises you can do to calm down. So the most simple one, but grown-up don't really do it much, is deep belly breathing. So you focus on really expanding your belly while you inhale. And doing that, it's gonna activate stretch receptors, and it's gonna send signals to the nervous system to bring you into rest and digest. So this is a very simple tool, just deep belly breathing for a minute or two. to try. And if there are a lot of other breathing tools as well you could play with, but that's a good way to start. And meditation, if you don't find that helpful, have you tried body scan meditation, where you kind of scan your body bit by bit? Have you tried that?
No, I've never heard of it.
Okay, that's maybe a good way in. So a lot of people who've never done meditation before, that's a really good way in. If you can probably just Google it, but if you try body scan, so you basically scan your body from starting on the crown all the way down, and you try to feel sensations where you can, and that's going to help also to calm your system. That would be another tool I recommend.
I'm going to just add to this. A lot of people mistakenly believe mindfulness is meditation. Mindfulness quite literally means being present in the moment with no judgment. So, Mary, one of the things to consider is what can you do that allows you to be fully present to what's happening right now? And even if that's sitting in the garden, you know, listening to the leaves rustling and the wind on your face and watching the birds, that's mindfulness. Or when you're eating a meal and you're actually present to the fact that you're eating a meal. And often we do that when we're having meals with loved ones, rather than sometimes you've got the television on in the background, reading a book or a newspaper. When you're walking, just be aware of your clothing, you know, rubbing against your body, your feet literally touching the ground and lifting off. And as we focus on the reality of this moment as it is, not as we want it to be, we're basically engaging in an act of mindfulness. And that's, for me, where we're kind of creating a clear separation between mindfulness and meditation. It's just, what can I be present to right here, right now?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I can't actually walk, so but yeah, I get what
it
you're saying. Okay.
It doesn't need to be walking. It's anything, as Charlotte said, with that scanning your body, observing your breath, you know, being sat in the garden or you know, by a window, just looking out and just being present to what is real right now. Because most of the time we're stressed about things that aren't real right now. They're things that are happening in the past or the future, the things that have already happened that we're concerned about, or things that haven't happened yet that we're getting anxious about. So it's about resetting ourselves back to the here and now.
Okay, so if you're in the middle of something, for example, my best friend's just had her leg amputated. My father's just died, and I found the dead body of my 3-year-old cat a couple of days ago. So when you're in the middle of a load of stuff, can you do all those things? Because you're talking about things being in the past, which I kind of understand, but I'm going through quite a number of things going on at the moment.
And obviously, I appreciate it's harder in those moments. However, in that moment, what is real? Your fear, your anger, your grief, your sadness around the situation. And actually, one of the things that's really powerful when we're experiencing tough moments, that it's really hard to be present to that. But actually, I've found that we have the right support around us. And if you feel sad or angry, allow yourself to express that in a healthy and appropriate way. And I get that it's, you know, it might not necessarily about, I'm going to go now and just do some breathing, but it's, I feel sad. Give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling, because that is real right now, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you do need support, feel free to drop us a message. We're going to take
Thanks
one.
For sharing.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for your vulnerability. Julie Wren had her hand up. Julie, do you have a point? And then we've got Deborah. Oh, I think we've lost Julie. Deborah, did you have a point to share? I'm going to take one or two more before we close the meeting. Go for it, Deborah.
Yeah, thank you for your chat. I was just wondering whether tinnitus is a symptom of severe stress or anxiety, if you know that.
I've got to be honest with you, I just don't know enough about tinnitus. I do know there are various different conditions, both physiological, digestive disorders, autoimmune conditions that can be triggered or flared up by stress. It's just not one I've actually personally looked into. I'm not sure if Charlotte knows anything about tinnitus, but it's I can't give you an answer on that, but I'm happy to look it up for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Maybe just to add, the only thing I know about it is that there is a relation. So like psychosocial stress has been, or is like related, or it increases the probability at least to develop tinnitus. So that's the one thing I can add here. So it might help to just work on the stress levels. Just to add that.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you for the question, Deborah. Got Rebecca Whitfield, go for it.
That was really useful. So thank you for the breathing techniques and the shaking. Just a bit of advice. I've got quite a lot of build up muscle tension in my shoulders and my back, so it can get quite achy. And relaxing. I do exercise, eat healthily, try and be calm. Get quite a lot of anxiety and stress. Is there any advice to sort of just loosen your shoulders a bit when they are tight and you can't get rid of the knots?
Yeah, great question. We hold so much tension there. I can really relate. But what you could try is, if you have a small ball, like a tennis ball or a massage ball even, you can try to work with that. And what it does, it will help to release this tension your muscle and the fascia around the muscle holds. So you want to apply pressure at a specific point, not to make it very painful, but to feel some discomfort in a specific point for a few minutes. And then you release. And when you release, the body's going to put water back into the spot and helps the fascia rehydrate and release this muscle tension. And that's a great way. That's one of the main tools I usually also work with to help reduce stress on the muscle and the body.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. We're going to take the last point from Christiana before we close the meeting. Christiana.
Hi, apologies. I was late. I couldn't log into the session. So I just wondered if there was a recording that could be sent to someone like myself that's missed most of it.
Absolutely. Abby will be able to answer that question.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be sending a follow-up email with the recording.
Great. Thank you so much.
That will also have all the links and all the resources and all the information that we discussed in the meeting today. Well,
Okay,
thank you
great.
so much, all of you, for investing your valuable time, energy, and your voices to today's session. It's amazing that we officially finished 7 minutes ago and there's still almost 200 people here. So that's really wonderful that we went from, 30 people showing up for these webinars to now, more than 1,000 registering. So we can only continue doing this because you guys show up. So please do continue to show up when you get the recording. Please feel free to share that with friends, family, and colleagues that you feel may benefit from this. Utilize all the resources that are available. And if you would like to have a deeper dive into neuroscience, please do join us on the 18th of September. We would love to have you there. Have a wonderful rest of the day and the rest of the week. We will be having our next monthly webinar in the middle of August. Dates will come out in the email that you get tomorrow. But in the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your summer. Take care, everybody, and thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlotte, have you got a minute?
I do. Yeah. Should we stay on or jump on another?
Yeah. Yeah, let's just wait till it's there. Okay, I'm going to close this meeting and we'll call you back on Teams. Cool. Abby, do you want to jump in? Thank you. See you in a sec.
See ya.